Howdy, folks. Once again, this is Donnie, and today I figured we might like to talk about AlmaLinux version 9 and OpenSCAP. Okay, so first off, what are we talking about? Okay, so for those of you who don't know, AlmaLinux is a free-of-charge clone of Red Hat Enterprise Linux. And it's one of a few that have come about since Red Hat decided to drop support for CentOS Linux. And we actually have a list of them right here. Okay, AlmaLinux, of course, at the top. That's what we're talking about. And we also have Rocky Linux, Euro Linux, Scientific Linux, Oracle Enterprise Linux. And down at the bottom is CentOS Stream. CentOS Stream is not really a replacement for Red Hat Enterprise Linux because it's more like kind of like a testing platform for stuff that's going to go into Red Hat Enterprise Linux. So that's a completely different animal nowadays. But anyway, of all of these, so far, the only one that has come out with a clone of Red Hat Enterprise version 9 is AlmaLinux. So AlmaLinux, they're usually pretty quick, okay? But anyway, so we have AlmaLinux version 9, which came out, a couple weeks ago, a few days ago, whenever it was. I actually don't remember, but it's okay. Doesn't matter. So, but AlmaLinux, you can use that in place of Red Hat Enterprise, either version 8 or version 9. I mean, both versions are available. But if you want the benefits of Red Hat Enterprise Linux, but you don't want to pay the support costs, or you don't have to pay the support costs, then yeah, AlmaLinux is a good choice. So anyway, we have over here, of course, the AlmaLinux website. And if you go to the download page, you can see there we have AlmaLinux available there for 4 different architectures. And we have x86-64 up here. And you can get either version 8.6 or version 9.0. And if you click on this, you will get to a list of mirror sites we can download. And of course, click on this, click on one of these, and you will get a place where you can download your installation media. So anyway, for what we're doing here, since we're talking about OpenSCAP, well, first off, let me close that tab and get over here. Okay, first off, let's talk about what OpenSCAP is. Well, first, SCAP is an acronym which stands for Security Content Automation Protocol. And it's defined here as a U.S. standard maintained by the National Institute of Standards and Technology. Yes, our good friends at NIST, an agency of the U.S. federal government. But anyway, the OpenSCAP project is a collection of open source tools for implementing and enforcing this standard, and has been awarded the SCAP 1.2 certification by NIST in 2014. Okay, so how does OpenSCAP work? Well, it's a set of tools and a set of profiles, right? And you got profiles for lots of different purposes. And so let's say that you have a some sort of website, you're operating some sort of e-commerce business, you need to accept credit card payments on your website, then you want your website to be compliant with the payment card industry data security standards. And actually, let's bring that up here. I neglected to do that. It's PCI-DSS for short. There we go. So yeah, here's the site right there. So if you go to this site, and you can read all about the payment card industry data security standards here. Okay, this sets the standards for how you need to set up your website to securely accept credit card payments, in order to protect the customer's credit card data and personally identifying data and all that good stuff, right? So, so we got that, and lots of other stuff too. Like, for example, if you are in the U.S. and are involved in the healthcare industry, you need to comply with HIPAA standards. And if you work for some sort of a government agency, or if you're a contractor working with a government agency, you need to comply with the standards for that. So there are lots of different standards, and also different governments around the world have their own standards. For example, Australia, France, a few other countries all have their own sets of standards. And the way OpenSCAP works is that you have these profiles. You have a profile for each one of these standards. And let's say that you need to set up a website that complies with PCI-DSS, then you can install your Linux on your server and apply an OpenSCAP profile that will automatically configure your server to comply with PCI-DSS standards. And the same thing goes for any of these other standards. So if you need to comply with HIPAA standards, when you set up the server, you can apply an OpenSCAP profile, which will automatically configure the server to comply with HIPAA standards, and so on for all the rest of the standards. So it's really, really pretty cool, and it's really pretty easy to work with. And also, if you combine the OpenSCAP with a tool like Ansible or Puppet, you can actually create a remediation profile that you can deploy to all the servers on your network at the same time. Really, really cool. But anyway, let's talk about Alma and OpenSCAP together. Okay. Now, well, actually, before I even get to that, I gotta tell you, there is one little weakness with the OpenSCAP, and that's the fact that not all Linux distros support it equally well. In fact, the only ones that support it well at all are the Red Hat type distros. So I'm talking about the Red Hat Enterprise distros and Fedora. They're the only ones that have a whole wide range of different profiles that you can apply. So if you're talking about Ubuntu or Debian or SUSE, yeah, you got a few OpenSCAP profiles available to you, but you don't have the wide variety of profile that you have on the Red Hat type distros. So that's one weakness there. The other little weakness is that if you have a profile that is written for one specific Linux distro, you can't apply it to another Linux distro. So for example, you can't tap into that wide variety of SCAP profiles that you have for Red Hat in order to apply them, in order to copy them over to an Ubuntu server and apply them there. That's not going to work. The OpenSCAP program will not let you do that. And that even applies across the various Red Hat Enterprise clones. So for example, you cannot take a SCAP profile for AlmaLinux and apply it to Rocky Linux, or vice versa. And you can't take an OpenSCAP profile from Red Hat Linux and apply it to Rocky or Alma. Okay, you have to have the SCAP profiles written specifically for the distro that you're dealing with. All right. Now, the other thing about it too is that even the various Red Hat Enterprise clones don't support OpenSCAP equally well. I mean, they all have the wide variety of various OpenSCAP profiles available, but the thing is, some of the Red Hat Enterprise clones allow you to install and apply an OpenSCAP profile as you install the operating system, but others don't. So, so the ones that don't, yeah, you still got OpenSCAP available to you, but you have to install it after you've done the installation and apply the profile after you've done the installation. Okay, now that brings us to why I want to talk about AlmaLinux. AlmaLinux with version 8, okay, AlmaLinux version 8 did not have the OpenSCAP stuff in the installer. RHEL did. Okay, so if you're dealing with RHEL version 8, you were able to apply your OpenSCAP security profile as you were installing the operating system. With AlmaLinux 8, you could not. Now, AlmaLinux 9 is out. RHEL 9 is not out yet, so I can't talk about that at all. But AlmaLinux 9 is out, and guess what? They now have included the OpenSCAP stuff in the AlmaLinux 9 installer. So that is pretty cool. That's what I want to show you. And let me get rid of that busy website background there. There we go. That's more better. Anyway, so here I am at the AlmaLinux 9 installer screen here. And I'm just setting this up in a virtual machine. I apologize that this is a little bit small, and unfortunately I can't make this installer screen any bigger. But anyway, you see down here, I've done everything. I've made all my choices so far except for the security profile. And oh yeah, let me show you something else too here. I was going to show you this, I forgot. Yeah, there we go. When you download this, okay, you've got a minimal ISO and you've got a DVD. Get that full-blown big DVD, because the minimal ISO file will not have the OpenSCAP stuff in it, but this DVD does. So get that, okay? Okay, so now let's get back to this. All right, so anyway, I come up here to my installer screen, and I've already gone through the preliminary screens, of course, and I made all my selections except for the security profile. Now click on the security profile, and you can see, yes, I do have some OpenSCAP profiles available to me. And I can come in here, and you can see we've got some more generic profiles here at the top, some ANSI profiles. Actually, this is for the French government, the French Information Security Agency. Okay, and a whole bunch of them. And then we've got the CIS. CIS is Center for Internet Security. And unfortunately, this is not the finalized version of it. This is a draft. They said this is. They're saying that this is a draft profile based on the AlmaLinux 8 version for experimental purposes. So not based on the CIS benchmark for AlmaLinux 9, because this was not available at the time of the release. So yeah. Eventually, I'm sure this will be replaced with a finalized version. So, but I mean, for now, you can experiment with it. Okay, and you know, that's another thing too. You know, when a new version of Red Hat Enterprise Linux first comes out, that .0 version, yeah, I found out before you actually do the deployment, it's best to wait till either the .1 or the .2 version comes out, because there are going to be a lot of changes by that time, right? But anyway, so here in this 9.0 version, we have just draft versions of some of these standards that are based on the old Alma 8. And we got a couple there for Alma Alma servers, and there's one for Alma workstation, and another one for the workstation, and this one here, I'm not sure what that one is. Let's see here, we can do this. Okay, this is for unclassified information in non-federal information systems and organizations, NIST 800.171. Okay, and there's one for Australia. There's one for HIPAA, the Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act, and another one for Australia, and protection profile for general purpose operating systems, and again, this is a draft version. And there's one for PCI-DSS, and there's a draft one for STIG, which is for the United States Department of Defense. And looks like that's about it there. So, oh yeah, and a STIG one there with GUI. Okay, so anyway, let's go ahead here and pick one. Okay, so I'll pick the PCI-DSS, and I'll select a profile. All right. And you can see down here at the bottom, you know, some of the things that this is going to do for us. And so we're going to be adding some different packages to install, like AID, for example. AID is like a host-based intrusion detection system, which checks on file integrity, and LibreSwan is like a, what do you call it? I forget the name for it. Well, it's a, daggone it. What do you call it? LibreSwan. I know what it is. Come on, Donnie. Come on, man. As our president would say. So let's check here. LibreSwan. I'm trying to think of the name of it. And IPsec. Yay, IPsec. Oh boy, it's awful to get old and see now, I tell you. But anyway, so we're installing an IPsec package, it looks like, and a few other things there. So if I were to hit done, that would take me back to my installer screen, and I could continue installation. But before I do that, let's do something else here. Let's check on the STIG one here. Okay, so this is what I want to show you here. Now, this one here, we got a bunch of red things here. And these red things mean that we cannot apply this particular profile right yet, okay? Because there are certain things that OpenSCAP will not do for us automatically. And so certain profiles, not all of them, but certain profiles require that the machine's drive be partitioned in a certain way. And this particular profile here, the STIG profile, requires that the home, the temp, the var, var log audit, and var temp all have to be on separate partitions or logical volumes. Okay? And the reason for that really is to help prevent denial of service attacks. Because if somebody can come in and fill up the root partition of the drive, what will happen, the way Linux works, is that once the root partition completely runs out of space, the Linux kernel just stops dead in its tracks, and you cannot even get it running long enough to free up disk space. The only way you can free up disk space is to boot the machine up on a rescue CD, some sort of rescue media, and mount the drive manually, and then go in and free up the space, right? And the problem, of course, with having all these various, the home directory for example, the /home directory, having it in with the root partition is that somebody can go in and create a huge amount of files without having root privileges, right? So somebody can go in and run a DD program and create some big old files and completely fill up the drive and not have to have root privileges to do it. So by putting these different directories off in their own partitions, it helps prevent somebody from going in and filling up that root partition, because then the only way you can fill up the root partition is to first obtain root privileges, right? So anyway, for this reason, before you start with OpenSCAP, you need to download the checklist for whatever standard you're dealing with. So in this case, we would download this checklist for the STIG standard, and you would follow it down through to get your drive partitioned the way that the standard calls for. Okay, so in this case here, I just accepted the default partitioning scheme, which does not meet this standard. Okay, so if I were wanting to apply this STIG standard for real, I would have to go back now. I would have to go back out of this this security profile thing. I would go back to the drive partitioning screen, and I would create these different partitions, as part of my new scheme. So, but I'm not going to do that now. Instead, let's just go ahead here and do this. Okay, the PCI-DSS does not require this different partitioning scheme. It'll work just fine on the normal default scheme. So let's go with that. Okay, and I can select done. And look, it says everything is okay, right? So that's a good thing. So now I can begin installation, and it'll just install like normal, except that when it's done, you're going to see that your machine now meets the standards for PCI-DSS. So that's a good thing, right? Something else here too, and by the way, I'm not going to wait for this whole thing to install here. We'll do some more videos later that involve OpenSCAP, and we'll take a look then at results from this. But anyway, one thing I do want to mention here about the Red Hat Enterprise 9 series of distros is the fact that they have dropped support for the first generation of x86-64 CPUs. Okay, so what's that mean? Well, it means that if you have like a server that's old enough to have a Xeon processor that's based on the old Core 2 Intel architecture, this is not going to work. And also, if you have like a server or a workstation that's that is running with an AMD Opteron CPU, that's not going to work. All that's first generation, okay? And so you've got to have at least second generation now in order to install your Red Hat Enterprise 9 distros. And we'll look at that a little bit later on too, about how to deal with that. So anyway, I think that's pretty much it here for this particular video. And again, AlmaLinux 9 and OpenSCAP is going to make a good combination, especially once they get those draft versions of the different SCAP profiles updated to the finalized versions. That'll be a good thing. And just remember, if you want to deal with OpenSCAP, your Red Hat Enterprise distros are really your best bet for dealing with them, because all those various profiles that I've showed you, not all of them are available for the non-Red Hat Linux distros, okay? So just keep that in mind. But anyway, that's pretty much it for this video. And now that we've done that, though, let's take a look at a word from my sponsor, which is me, and my books. Yes, books, plural now. I have more than one. Mastering Linux Security and Hardening. Available from both the Packt Pub website and from Amazon. I will have the purchase links for that in the video description below. And also, Linux Service Management Made Easy with Systemd. Now, this is not a book about Systemd. This is the book about Systemd, because it's the only one out there, believe it or not, right? If you go on Amazon, you will find a couple of other books with the word Systemd in the title, but, you know, one is for a very outdated version of Fedora, the other is for a very outdated version of Ubuntu, and neither one of them goes beyond just the basic commands of Systemd. This book, I go into the full description, the full explanation of how Systemd works, how to deal with it, and all that stuff that you used to have to chase down on the internet, you know, with your web searches and go to the different blog sites and whatever. Well, you don't have to do that anymore. Just get this book, okay? And it's going to save you a whole lot of time and a whole lot of trouble, okay? And again, the purchase links for this will be in the video description below. But anyway, so now that is it for this video. So I will see you next time. Be sure to like and subscribe to the video. Leave some comments if you like, and because all that helps get the video out to more people. It helps deal with the YouTube algorithms. And I will see you next time.